Hello, beautiful people. Just getting set up for the live with Jordi Klassen today. We're going to be talking about motherhood, all things conscious mothering, healing that mother wound that so many people carry, and how it got there in the first place, and how we can find compassion for our mothers, even if they're less than kind or less than wonderful to us all the time. Welcome. Happy to have you here. Hi, Dan. Welcome. Super good to be here with you guys today. And we're just waiting for Jordi to hop on. She'll be here shortly. And in the meantime, I'm going to do some I love yous with you guys. If you're new to the channel, if you're new to the world, please hit the subscribe and make sure you're following me for more cool updates. I'm doing more and more interviews with people who are connected and embodying conscious living, embodying that onward journey to seeking a higher evolution and a higher place for us to live from, so that we can really create this new earth together and live in it, so that, you know, the joy and the feeling of connection and community that we experience at festivals or we experience at the peak moments of our lives can really become a much more integrated parts of our day. We'll do some joygasmic living. If you have a mom, if you are a mom, or if you wish you were a mom, please comment in the comments below. Let me know where you're at. If you're a dad or a wannabe dad watching, honor you too. Wannabe dad as in somebody who wants to be a dad. Go ahead and post in the comments. It's great to be here with you guys, and I'm super happy to see you. Also, if you have any questions, whether you're watching this live or the replay, feel free to post them in the comments, and we're doing enough of these that we'll be able to answer it, if not today, then in another experience. I'm going to do a couple ohms while we wait for the Jordi to arrive. Hello, Jesse. Hello, Louise. Hello, Dan. Welcome. Welcome. We're talking about motherhood today. If you guys have any questions, or if you have any specific issues you've bumped into with your mom, happy to hear what those are in the comments. Happy to respond to those. We're just Jordi's going to be joining us shortly, so we're here doing some ohms. If you guys haven't done any ohms yet today, feel free to join me in that process. Yeah, relaxing. Great. Good to see you here, Jesse. Always happy to see you. Welcome, Kim. Here comes the Jordi. Here we go. Always recommend smiling while doing our meditations, because when we smile, we anchor more love and joy in our life. I know that when I started meditating, I thought it was very serious. It was a very serious top of mountain monk type thing to do. And hey, Desi, hey, David. Meditation was a very serious thing, because that's where I had been taught it. Jordy's on! Hold on, me too. Upside downs. Oh, now you're upside up and I'm upside down. What's going on?
I don't know. It told me to rotate my phone to be able to be on the video.
You
Should I
gotta start
turn?
horizontal. You gotta start. There you go. It looks good to me. Does it look good to everybody else? Give us some hearts and thumbs ups if it's working. Must run. You got something. Dad's Memorial Men Lads Weekend. Dan, thanks for being a kick-ass dad. Sounds like that's what you're about to go do. Thank you for doing that. Thanks for being here, starting up off the call with us. Super appreciated.
Oh,
Yay. Okay, so
oh, this is so fun.
looks like our cameras are on point, so that's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. I'm so glad to be here
Mm-hmm.
with you, Jordi. We've been trying to get on this call for like who knows how long.
I
Sometimes
know.
it's me, sometimes it's you, just like,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, Desi, super happy to see you here too. And yeah, we're going to talk about conscious momming. We're going to talk about mother
Mm-hmm.
wounds. We're going to talk about
Yeah.
some of the crazy ass things that might have happened to both of us along the way if we feel brave enough.
Yeah.
And and we're going to speak about how to be compassionate. I thought I'd add in how to be compassionate to less than conscious moms who are our moms,
Yeah, I
right?
think that's a good
Yeah.
one. The compassion piece, and I think that compassion piece runs into even those who have like opposing views towards us or the fathers of our children, if they don't necessarily understand and are in a different form of parenting than us, and if there's issues there, deepening in compassion with that too. I think compassion's just, yeah, it's big. It's a big one.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, Tanner's here. Tanner, if you want to come talk in
Ah.
person a little bit later, you're in the building, you can do that. I
Hmm.
know Tanner's got some things to talk about, not so great relationships with moms and healing that as well. So,
Oh,
I'd love to
wow.
start with that. I'd love to jump right into
Hmm.
that because I know that from about the time I was certainly by the time I was 16, I had a big
Hmm.
hate for my mom. I had a big like hate experience within myself. That sounds really intense to say, but
Yeah.
a lot of the challenges that I had in my life came from this place of judgment towards her. It's like she doesn't approve of what I'm doing. She doesn't understand what
Hmm.
I'm doing. She's judging everything that I'm doing and being unkind in that. And when I look back on it, I don't know if she was actually ever unkind directly to me, but
Hmm.
it didn't matter because my thoughts about how she was being, she's just
Hmm.
living her life doing the best she could do, right? Which is what we're all
Hmm.
doing all the time. But
Hmm.
I was not impressed. And it took me the better part of 10 years, let's call 7 of those like within the awakening period of walking around with that pain and that frustration being like I can't do anything I want to do in my life because my mom says
Hmm.
nothing, but is judging me all the time. Yeah.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until I started to take more ownership of this is my experience. I'm the one who's thinking this. I'm the one who's causing this. When I look at what's happening, actually, she's being reasonably nice. Maybe I'm blowing some of the things out of proportion.
Hmm.
And how can I be more kind about that? And having to actually sit down and have some really challenging conversations and say, hey, I've been feeling judged around XYZ for my entire life that I can remember.
Yeah.
Have you actually been feeling that way? And she's like, no, didn't even think about it. She didn't even remember half the things that I'm like, you did this and that made me like this.
Hmm.
Like she doesn't even remember. And I was like, oh, that was an eye opener for me. She
Hmm.
didn't even remember. She didn't register in her memory as an important event where it was like a pivotal point for me. So
Hmm.
yeah, do you have any moments like that?
I think for me, my relationship with my mother has been quite an intense journey. I think we all have really intense experiences with our mothers, but yeah, I think I don't know. It's hard to put into words what I'm wanting to say without it. I think for me, I'm moving through a lot of the thick of that mother wound and that mother relationship. And I think that with being a mother to Peyton and having Peyton, it put me in a position to really want to rewrite a lot of storylines and recreate a lot of ideas around motherhood and a lot of ideas around parenting and what that looks like. And so for me, I experienced a lot of trauma in my relationship with my mother that I'm not going to go into detail on here, but yeah, definitely a lot there, and I think on both ends too. It's definitely taken me being accountable of the things that I may have done at a younger age. And then also trying to look at the scenarios from a space of, not really having a charge towards it, and trying to be compassionate, trying to understand her journey as well. And perhaps, the deeper that I go in my self-healing and my self-realizations and understanding myself, I'm understanding, where certain behavioral patterns are coming from, or understanding, how to identify those within other people. So then that just reflects into my relationship with my mother. Because then I'm able to understand her more, and perhaps, the cause and effect of different things that I've experienced with her. So that just, that helps me to liberate myself further, and to recognize, okay, this wasn't necessarily me doing something wrong in XYZ scenario. It was, she was working through her own stuff, or working through her own triggers, or working through her own self-love and self-worth. And, I took a lot of that on for myself, like low self-love, low self-worth, really not believing in myself, really having some very limiting self-talk for a large period of my life. And it sneaks up here and now too, as well. Like it comes up, and I'm aware of it in a different way, but it's interesting because you're able to identify where those voices are coming from when we look at our family dynamics. And I think, when we have compassion, which to me, I feel compassion is generated when we bring whatever's on the outside, bringing it into the heart and allowing our bodies to embody it. So we understand through an internal experience, and then give back, the stuff that's not ours, or, and then we can better understand, and we don't have to, from there, I think we can create healthy boundaries as well. And we can create, because then
so much of it has to do with not having healthy boundaries role modeled, and then not knowing what that is, and then having to figure out what that is, and then not having a role model for how to do that kindly, right?
Yeah, exactly. So trying to create healthy boundaries, I think from a compassionate space, we're better able to have a healthy communication around it, but not always. Like it's definitely not always easy. And then that's where, there's space, and sometimes we need space to go and find more pieces of ourselves that we need, or allow them space, whoever them may be, space to find pieces of themselves, and we're always just on these journeys to understand ourselves. And just because someone's our mother,
I'm just saying hi to people. Keep going. Just because somebody's our mother.
Just because someone's our mother doesn't mean that, they're not still trying to find themselves, or they're not still trying to understand themselves, as a mother myself, and you as well. Like, the journey doesn't end.
I had so much compassion for my mom. I was like, oh my God. Like when Alex was 3, I was like, oh my God, my mom is a saint. Like my mom is like straight up a saint, because I know I was not an easy child to be a parent to. And I just had such an understanding of how much she must have just done, like just been so kind to me over and over and over again. And it's so challenging. It's so challenging being a mom. And I don't know how many times I had this moment of, oh, I sound like my mom. There's that like, oh, I sound like my mother. It's like, and that, like, I want to touch on that really deeply right now, which is that, like, that's epigenetic. That's cultural. That's like trauma passed down from generation to generation to generation that just weaves through the family line, regardless of whether or not you chose it, you wanted to, conscious being in this life chose it, right? I operate from the place of we chose it before we decided to be born here, because primarily, I don't know if that's actually true or not, but it sure helps deal with it a little bit more, right?
It helps to ground it, and it helps to be like, okay, this is the bigger picture that we're looking at, and some of these patterns, are ones that are going to be a lifelong journey that show up in different ways and show up in multiple scenarios and multiple relationships. So I have a similar mindset as you with that, and come from that space. And I think that that's just a very big, I say everything is spheres and circles, and like just like our solar system, how we have the planets that go out and out and out, is similar with like even our circle of friends. We have the center, and then we get more, and things get more expanded, and there's bigger pictures, there's more involved, there's more dynamics, there's more to understand and navigate through. But so I think motherhood is just, especially when we're wanting to create new waves of choices that maybe aren't not even maybe that are definitely not as conventionally recognized or appreciated, or
Yeah.
mothers who are really wanting to be mothers and do it in a way that's intuitive and
Yeah.
natural and instinctual,
Yeah.
and to deepen in that. And our society isn't necessarily set up for that, and it's not necessarily able to support that because it's also very misunderstood, you know, trying to understand our own intuition and our own instincts and like why we behave certain ways we do, or why we just know things, or why we feel connected to certain things. You know, that's like looking into the black, that's looking into the void, and this like whole entire place that we haven't necessarily understood just yet. So as a society, it's just things that we don't understand that aren't able to be labeled as like, this is this thing and this is always going to be this thing, like this always, every single time, without fail. It's like, no,
That's not
intuition
how
and
life works.
intuition and instinct go with what is at all times. And so if we are mothers trying to mother and create homes from that space, trying to create businesses from that space, trying to create contributions from that space and raise our children in alignment with that, it's challenging at this time, I think, because as an external society, we're not necessarily supportive of that. But I think it's just because it's new, and it's it's challenging our beliefs around what we know, you know, and what feels safe, and recognizing that the unknown can be safe. You know, we can learn how to navigate it, and we can learn how to find peace through that compassionate peace, I think.
When we're able to have compassion with that flow, it's like whatever's, because life's happening regardless.
Yeah.
If you think life's not happening, I'm sorry. Like it's happening regardless, and it's flowing regardless. And I think part of the challenge that like conscious beings have, especially in relation with family, especially in relationship with other people, is that we are holding a different frequency, we're holding a different vibration, and that's, you know, ideally, not always in practice, but ideally it's based in love, it's based in compassion, it's based in understanding. And when we bring that to a space that still has a lot of unresolved pain, it still has unresolved trauma, it still has like really rigid views that came from, you know, up the line from very rigid experiences, we need to, I always need to remember that it was less than 50 years ago, it was totally normal to beat your children. Totally normal. Right? So a lot of our parents were raised in those kind of environments. So when we're like, yeah, sure, she can climb all over the couch, I have no problem with my kid climbing all over the couch and walking. It's like they would have been beaten for that. So of course, the pain body is like, don't do that, you're going to get hurt. And it's a form of protection. They're trying to protect from the perspective that they have. Whether that's like how we're parenting our children, or whether that's how we're being in the world, you know, like, why don't you X, Y, Z? Why don't you do these things? You know, you know, this like mothering advice, not helpful, or it is helpful, right? It's helpful when we can remember that they're coming from a place of love to the best of their own capacity.
Well, and I think how I like to relay this when I'm talking about it in different classes, because it's all the same thing in some way. Control of, no, there's no jumping on the couch, there's no expression, there's no body movement, there's no, you know, freedom to be big or to take up space. It's a very like compressed oval kind of shape. If we were to draw it in a shape, it's like very tall and skinny. It's very like from one extreme to the other, but very compressed, or very short and very flattened. And I think now, as we deepen or expand in this loving vibration and decide to be more expressive, embody our emotions more, that there's more to the palette of our emotional tongue. You know, we can taste more, there's more flavors, there's more to experience, or we're starting to, you know, move our bodies more, have more movement, and it's okay. So we're starting to create bigger circles. We're starting to create more expansive, full rotations in how we're experiencing life. And so that's where we're shaking those shackles, if you were to envision it as like this balloon or this circle that has like a rope wrapped around it, keeping it small like this, and we're undoing that, and so it's expanding, and we're breathing more. and then we want to make it bigger.
Right? And we want to be
so,
like rocking around like a star in life, right? We're sitting here being like, but mom says.
Exactly. Well, and then that fear of getting in trouble or being hurt comes forward, and so then it's moving through that, and it's like, oh, okay, it's safe to be myself. And I think if we look at adults right now, I bet you, I don't want to say for sure, but most of the people watching, I'm sure that we've experienced, oh, I can't go to this group and speak loudly or say what I feel passionate about, or oh, I can't go dance and move my body, or that doesn't feel right, like I'm embarrassed to do that, or I don't want to, if I really cry or really laugh or really feel the waves of my emotions, that's new, or that pushes an edge in my emotional experience. So I think even as adults right now, we're learning how to experience more of life and to live more fully. And our children, they're big in their emotions, they're big in their experiences, no matter what it is. They just come that way.
They just come that way, just like we did.
Exactly. And if we stifle that expression, if we bring in disciplinary that's like, no, be quiet, or no, stop crying, or not even through anger, if it's like, oh, you're upset, here, let's have, do you want a treat, do you want food, do you want a drink, do you want a present? So then this is where we start to have those consumeristic patterns starting to come forward, or coping mechanisms that we begin to experience as adults, is like, oh my God, I'm addicted to sugar, or when I'm sad, I need to go shopping and buy all of this stuff, or when I'm angry, I don't feel all of my anger, or I don't allow myself to feel my sensitivities or my vulnerabilities. It all comes back to what happens when we're a child, and how we're disciplined as a child, or how essentially we have space held for us to feel the totality of what we're feeling.
Yeah.
And it all just comes to creating nice big rotations. And the rotations are just full circles of recognizing that there's a rise, there's a buildup, there's a climax, there's a fullness, and then there's a release and a letdown and a bottom. And that bottom, is a space where depression can be felt, where that death is kind of being felt. And as a collective, that's one of our biggest fears. And then up on the top, it's like imbalance is that space where anxiety is found. And so if we have anxiety, it's when there's too much and we don't know what to let go of, and we're looking to the future, we're looking to the past, and everywhere but the present. So creating and breathing, creating the full rise, allowing the exhale to happen. And then this is how we generate a full compassion too, because we bring in and we breathe out. So we can bring in to understand, and then we can release and let go of the stuff that's not ours, and allow the emptiness to come, and then trust that we know how to carry on and shift into the next cycle from that.
Yeah, there's such a power in being able to express that full emotion and to be with that full cycle in the emotion. I know for myself, I spent, oh my God, probably 20 years of my life, not even that old, but definitely like 20 years of my life, like just suppressing the emotions and being like, nope, those aren't allowed to be felt. No, not
pushing
it down. And it was liberating for me when I realized that if I just gave myself fully to the emotion for like 2 to 5 minutes, it was gone, it was done, there was no more left. It's like, sob until you're done. Oh, that only took 45 seconds. Cool. That's so much easier than carrying it around for 50 years, right? Like, so much easier. And that's what children do naturally. That's what they do, is they just like, unless they're stopped, unless they're told not to, unless they learn a different pattern in order to stay connected to that mother love. Right?
Well, and I think too, if we sometimes we're scared that feeling isn't going to be there anymore, and we like create attachment to like, oh, when I'm sad I get attention. Sometimes children only get attention or validation when they're doing something bad, and when they're being disciplined in a negative way, and so they want to, they hold on to it and create all these patterns from that place. They start drawing on walls, they start being destructive, and there's a cycle and series of that's happening. But it's like, okay, well, what's really going on? And then it goes into, how they're supported in school and daycare and day-to-day life as well, because it's the emotional body very much so, and learning how to support the emotional body, and that, you know, understanding emotions is like an ongoing, never ending study to understand. And because each body is different, each time you feel sadness, it's going to have a different flavor to it, a different way that it's being experienced. So it, you know, I think it's, yeah, it's, I think an emotional processing takes time and energy as well. And I think that I don't want to say we, but as a society, there's not the time allotted for that. You know, we're just
Certainly.
sort of in this programming of instant gratification in ways of like, you know, doing, go, create results, get to the end of this timeline and this time frame and receive your award, and okay, go home, you're exhausted, there's not time for processing, or just on to the next thing, and then bed to repeat again the next day. And that's like in the work life, and that's also in, you know, in school and stuff with children as well.
Yeah.
Because it takes energy to
Yeah,
feel your stuff.
And when we don't take time to do it on a regular basis, even if that's once a week, even if that's, you know, it builds up. And so then there's lots of it, right? If you haven't processed your emotions in 25 years, it's like, go take a couple of 3-day weekends and do that. And that's how a lot of people do it. But if we could make a habit of, you know, 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the day, being like, what did I go through today? What did I feel? And when I started gratitude journaling, actually, I did a horrific job of doing that because I was having a really hard time in my life. I was super upset. I was super pissed off. And I got this, you know, I was like, gratitude journaling, great. I'm going to be good at gratitude journaling. I'm going to kick butt at it. I'm going to be the most grateful person there is. How much anger in my face when I say that, right? I'm going to be the best gratitude ever. And so when I look back at those journals, like, my writing is super upbeat and positive. Apparently there were lots of nice things going on, but my memories that got stored were of the really challenging things because I wasn't processing it, because I wasn't taking time and just like crying, partially because I was single momming at the time. And so, I mean, where exactly, you know, between working from home, between parenting, between doing all the cooking and all the cleaning and all the making money and all of that jazz, like, where exactly is there time to do that? And that's what sort of like, it broke me in a way. And it broke me into like, I need to feel these now. I need to do this now. I need to figure out how to process this emotion in approximately 45 seconds so I can go back to being a mom, because my nervous system was literally so fired up in a fight or flight that I was like getting aggressive in a not good way. And it's like, okay, you know, I need to figure out how to do this quickly right now. And that's where the Joygasm practice of like connecting to that highest energy and like just flushing a toilet almost. Just like flush that out, whoosh, flush that out, and give it full expression for a minute, 30 seconds, whatever, and then come back. And it's so powerful too when we can do that with our emotions, when we can recognize they're there, offer them space, let them be expressed, realize we don't necessarily want to be stuck in that emotion anymore, come back to presence, connect with something higher than ourselves, and then be like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'm good. What's going on with life? Now, it's easy to say that. It's a hell of a lot harder to do it. I promised myself I wasn't going to swear on lives. It's much harder to do it. But it's that much harder. It's that much harder that it made me swear, yeah?
Yeah.
So,
well, and
go ahead.
I think once I get started on this piece, it'll go into a long trail. So you finish up.
I don't even remember. I'm just reading here. Desi said it's definitely a struggle to try and help my son navigate his emotions without mine overshadowing his process. I'd love to speak to that for a minute. There was this really amazing moment that happened for me in Boulder with the wonderful Michael. I was like, thank you, Archangel Michael, for being here right now and holding space for this. This is an actual person named Michael, but you know, I always see the overlay. And to that, I think Alex was about 3.5, 4, somewhere in there. So like just past those 2s, still pretty challenging in terms of just parenting. 2-year-olds is not the best. Poop mouth, yeah, thanks, Dave. 2-year-olds have poop mouths too, poop bums. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Nobody tells you.
The blood, the poo, the puke, the pee, the spit, the boogers. It's like
puke.
there are human fluids all over.
God,
It is a
nobody told me.
human experience of very
Nobody
much
told me there was
human.
gonna be so much poop. What the heck? Oh my God. Anyway,
I would.
so imagine I've just gone through like 3 years of cleaning up somebody else's poop, and I wasn't, I said we would talk about intentional and unintentional pregnancies. So I didn't necessarily like sign up and be like, oh my God, my biggest dream is to become a mother and clean somebody's poop for 3 years. Like, I wasn't the one putting my hand up and doing that. It was a thing that happened through life. And so, whole life. So here we are. Alex is 3, and he's having a meltdown in the kitchen because I didn't cook. We're in somebody else's kitchen. We don't have the normal things that he eats. And I'm trying to cook him scrambled eggs, and I cooked them wrong. He wanted fried eggs instead of scrambled eggs. So he's like, no, I'm not going to eat it for breakfast. Okay, so I need to be calm and peaceful as a parent and be like, okay, I can either pass on that like genetic trauma of you must eat it now from the starvation that happened in the Ukraine with my grandparents, blah blah blah, or I can like find a little bit more presence, or I can stuff my emotions or whatever. So I rummage through the fridge, try and find something else he'll eat. I make him a second breakfast. He snubs his nose at the second breakfast. I've had it up here after the first one. I'm so freaking angry, and I have not felt my anger in relation to my son at all in the first 3 years of his life because it felt unsafe to do so for me because I was the only one there. If I lost my shit, what was going to happen? It felt super dangerous, and so I was just like, I'm like, if there was a meter, I'd be like up to the airplanes, full of anger and rage, all these things, and Michael's standing there, and he goes, well, you don't have to stay calm right now. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean I don't have to stay calm right now? He's like, you don't have to be calm. He's losing his shit. You're clearly upset. I feel it. And I was like, what? Like, I just shook. It didn't comprehend. I couldn't understand what that might be like. And there was this profound moment where he said, if you need to cry right now, just cry.
Yep.
And so Alex is sobbing on the floor because I haven't made the right breakfast twice, and he's hungry. And I'm sobbing on the floor because I finally have a man holding space for me for the first time in 3 years in relationship to my son. And I just cried. I don't know how long it was, maybe like 5 minutes or something. I just sobbed. I just sobbed on the floor. And I felt like he was holding me. And I felt like he was holding Alex. And I felt like for the first time we were able to actually be in our emotions. And that was the first time that happened. And it took time to integrate that. It took time to come to a place where it felt safe for me to be in my emotions because my mom was not the most emotionally expressive person. My family was not a very emotionally expressive place. We come from Russians. We're famous for family photos. Right? And so it was this place where all of a sudden it was safe to feel those emotions. And what happened over time, because please remember to everybody who's watching this, like the awakening and the removal of those traumas takes time. Sometimes it happens in an instant, and it still takes time, and it's an ever-evolving journey. And there was this piece where all of a sudden it was okay for when Alex was really upset for me to be, I'm upset too. I'm feeling frustrated too. I can see that you're feeling frustrated. I'm also feeling frustrated. I'm also feeling overwhelmed, and maybe not when he was 3, but when he was like 4.5, 5, 6, and up until he's 8 now, he's like, oh, mom has feelings too. What I do impacts mom's feelings. I might modify my behavior in order to help take care of mom, especially as a single parent child combo. Like there's a level of caretaking between the two that when you get that, it's really beautiful. And now we're at a place where if I'm having a really rough day and I just like, I'm sad, like I'll be like, Alex, I'm sad. Can I just like, you didn't do anything. Can I just like sit and cry for a bit? And he'll like pet my hair while I cry, And it's like, oh, and what does that do? That raises young men and young girls, young men and young women. There we go. that already have from that young age a capacity to hold space for other people's emotions, a capacity to understand that it's okay to have emotions. When we don't show those emotions, we're actually hampering our children's, I believe, we're actually hampering our children's ability to grow into healthily expressed adults, because they don't have, if we don't show them that, they're not going to learn it from walking downtown or walking or going to school. They're certainly not going to go learn that emotions are safe to be expressed there. And there is a certain amount of, you know, when you have a safe space, you can go into the
Mm-hmm.
fullness of it, because there is a certain amount of out there and in here. And we talk in our family, we talk about civilization. It's like out in civilization, we behave this way. At home, we behave different ways, right? So it's important
Mm-hmm.
to denote those distinctions so that we don't have, you know, tantrums going all over the place, everywhere
Mm-hmm.
at 12, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but there's so much that can happen through that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for letting me share
Yeah.
that story.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. There's so many unknown moments when it comes into mothering and into just being a human as well. And to speak to that comment, it's definitely a struggle to try and help my son navigate his emotions without mine overshadowing his process. I know that Elena, you were just speaking to it, and I'd like to speak to that a little bit as well. Um, a recent thing that happened with me and Peyton, she was acting out because she had gotten, it was just her birthday on Wednesday, yesterday.
Yeah, happy
And
mom birthday to you.
yeah, yeah, 5 years. The mini is 5. I'm 5 years a mom. It's crazy how much
Congratulations.
goes on in life when you have a child, and like you have those days and those like things to help remind you of like when a milestone arrives, and then you reflect and it's like, holy crap. But yeah, one thing that happened, I won't go into too much with this story, but she had gotten a gift that someone had gotten her a bunch of candy and like this like really sticky lip gloss thing. And her whole entire life I've been like really 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 big on not having those things, and so it's not any different than anything that she's ever gotten from me to like, oh okay, no, we don't have this. But her dynamic is a little bit different in her life right now, so she's starting to get more gifts like that and being around candies and whatnot. But I didn't want her to have those, so I took it away. There was conversation that happened as to like why, and told her a story as to like why, you know, I didn't want her to have that and that she could get something else instead. And we went and ended up getting like a new lip chap that was an organic one and whatnot. But anyways, there was a big meltdown that happened, kind of around that gift, kind of around a couple other things. And she was angry, she was crying, she was yelling, she was hitting. It was just like all of the things all at once in this big meltdown. And it took me putting my stuff aside and my frustration or my like, I'm trying to get through to her, trying to support her, trying to like navigate it. And it took me saying, Peyton, I'm sorry that I took something away from you. Does it make you upset? You know, if that happens. And then that's where the water works. There was that, we tapped into what was actually going on. Then from that point we could talk about it. But it took me saying, you know what, I'm sorry. And I wasn't and that happens oftentimes too, where we just have to just get on their level. And you know, sometimes they just want validation in what they're feeling, because if they are starting to act out through anger and aggression, they're hurt in some way. Something is hurting
Yeah.
them. And
Yeah.
sometimes they just want, you know, they want to know that it's okay to feel, just like what you were saying of like feeling those emotions and crying. They want to know that they can feel that. But sometimes it takes someone saying, hey, I'm sorry and I see you, and then all of a sudden we can break. So similar thing as to what you said, you know, with Michael holding space for you. Sometimes it takes like, hey, it's okay and it's safe to feel what you're feeling, and let's talk about it. But sometimes we can't talk about it until we get to that and that tipping point, and then we can go through the cycle. And then putting our emotional stuff to the side, you know, is hard to do. We don't necessarily want to put them to the side. And if we can see how our children are massive reflections of us, you know, just like a partnership relationship reflects to us our stuff, our children reflect to us our stuff all the time. And so if we can see it as, ooh, okay, I'm triggered right now, and this is what this is showing me, and go through the process with them, because you are in it with them. We're not above them or below them. We're with them, and we're holding space for them, and they're holding space for us as well, but in a different way. And they need to be able to be children, because that's what we're trying to find our way back to, of like how to be that childlike innocence and wonder and belief in, you know, what's possible, and love for ourselves and love for others, and, you know, and then adding that structure into it. And so children, it's hard, and it's not easy, you know, to not get triggered by things, or to know how to work with your kids. And it changes so frequently as well. Sometimes Peyton, she'll say to me that she needs space or she wants space. But that's come from, you know, very early on in her life, talking about, okay, space is okay. Sometimes mommy needs space. Sometimes Peyton needs space. And it's not negative. Grounded is actually healthy. Grounded helps you breathe. Grounded doesn't mean that you're going to have things taken away from you. And, you know, and so grounded means, no, it's okay, you can breathe. And so now she's better able to identify when she needs space and just to breathe. She'll ask me for her journal just to write, and she can write letters, and she'll write on the lines and write her little symbols, but it's her doing an act of something to move something through. And then to know that I'm also there for her to show after, or to talk to after, or that I'm still in it with her, even if she's in space. You know, even if she's, you know, in her experience, I'm still there, and we're still connected. And this is something that me and her are having to learn so largely because of the space that we do have between us right now. And the journey that we're on. I was reflecting a lot yesterday on her birthday, and what she's been teaching me from the very beginning, through my pregnancy and through her birth and her whole life. It's been very much her showing me how powerful love is, and in ways that are going against anything that I could control or dictate, or any fear that I've had has been like, you don't have a choice, you need to go through all of these fears right from the beginning. And, you know, I also, a year and a half ago, like, I broke, you know, I reached a breaking point, and I broke. And that also comes from, you know, not being supported as a mother. You know, being supported in community is one thing, but it's so important that we are supported as mothers. It is so, so, so important. And then it's also, when you're having a child and when you're bringing a baby through, there's so much that happens for you. You know, for women, there's so much that happens. There's so many things that change mentally, psychologically, biologically, everything changes. And, you know, we go through a lot, and so do fathers too. This isn't to take away anything from the men and like a man's journey of becoming a man, but becoming a mother, I
was so unprepared, you know. I was so unprepared. I remember going to like weekly appointments, like get my belly checked, and nobody was like, Elena, you're gonna radically transform as a human being. You're gonna have to put down all of your own desires for like 3 years. You're gonna, you know, you're gonna have to dedicate your life completely to another human being and the nurturing of them. You're gonna, you know, like all of these things. Your body's gonna be stripped of nutrients, and it's gonna impact you in a way you're not gonna understand for 7 more years. Like, you know, like all of these things.
Well, and the mental aspect, like the mental illness that happens within mothers, you know, the depression that happens within new mothers, postpartum depression, and all of that, those are very, very, very big things.
Yeah.
And I've experienced a whole handful of them in so many different ways. And that furthers, you know, supporting our mothers and understanding the cycle that happens after birth and into motherhood, and how our bodies are changing, but also how we are becoming, like, we have just created a human and moved it through our body and brought forward life into this outside reality.
You're like, wow.
There, but to undermine or to underplay that, to downplay that, that is not an easy undertaking. And you are literally seeing between so many different forms of reality. And all of a sudden, you are so aware of so much of your surroundings. You are so in tune with your baby, your body, and the chemistry of your body and the body's or baby's body are like harmonizing together. If you're breastfeeding, your breasts begin to, like, they know when baby is hungry, and there's a letdown. There is so much going on an energetic level as well, and then the mental body and what's shifting. And we're becoming medicine women, we're becoming these women who are able to identify like the difference in a cry with our baby of, oh, they're hungry, oh, they need this, oh, it's this, or oh, this is wrong, or oh, I think it's something in their digestive tract, or they're constipated, or their lungs aren't feeling good, or there's something going on. We just know. Yeah. And the more and more that we can support that intuitive and instinctual knowing in mothers and midwife the mother through the birth just as much as we're midwifing a baby. We're birthing a baby, but we're also birthing a mother at the same time.
Yeah.
And it is so important that we learn how to do that. And supporting our mothers, being supportive mothers the best that we can, and to talk about these things, I think is important. And so that we don't get to those breaking points or get to the points where we just fall into, patterns of what has been because they're, what's known and what the rest of society is doing. And so then we put our kids into sustainable structure or unsustainable structures, or we feed them things that are just simple and easy because we don't have the time to do what we actually feel is best. I do not think that, I think every mother has an intuitive knowing and instinctual knowing of what's best for their child. And that looks different for every human, every baby, every pairing of a mother and a child. It is different for every single one. And giving permission without judgment for mothers to make those choices, I think, is so important. But then without the judgment, that's where it comes into like educating ourselves and being open and compassionate and understanding, and then helping to educate uneducated individuals. And when I say educated, I think of education as being educated in the ways of being human. I don't care how many degrees you have from a conventional school. That's fantastic. If you've done that, that's great. But being educated in the way of being human and what goes on a human level, what goes on in a human experience, being in the emotions, because none of that's going to matter when you have a baby who's coming out of your body and who needs you, and a child who...
Your PhD does not matter when you're birthing.
Exactly. And it's the same thing when it's the birth and the death. When you're on your deathbed, what matters? When you're giving birth, what matters? And I think exactly. And being in there. And so, and I think this goes into furthering something that I'm passionate about healing the mother wound, healing the wounds that we carry forward and traumas that we carry through our lineage. The more and more that we can embark upon those things with bravery and courage and confidence in our ability to move through challenges and move through these dense patterns, the more and more able that will be to create new life from new paradigms, new programs, just new, which is really old. It's not necessarily new, and it's just natural. It just is what is. And the more that we can...
I think it's new because we've chosen it. Yeah. In the past, like that tribal culture and that way of being was just how it was done. And then we've had this forgetting of it. And what makes it new is that we're consciously choosing it. We're consciously
and now we're choosing
that. We're choosing it instead of just moving through those, like you said, habitual patterns. Yeah.
Well, and I think it is new, actually. You are right, because it's a merging of what has been and what could be and what has been in all sorts of ways. It's a merging. There's a merging happening of consciousness and matter. What's tangible and what's intangible, and creating new forms of tangible consciousness. But we're merging, all the things that we've learned that aren't working, and taking the things out of that chunk of time that has worked, and then before that as well, what didn't work and what does. And we're being alchemists right now, measuring things out and creating the right quantities of
Yeah.
what's working and where we can go. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much to be done. There's so much to be done, which is why it's so great there's so many of us.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that are doing really amazing work
Yeah.
all over the planet, and I think the more and more that we can deepen in love and find love, and not that it's always love, but love is the baseline. The more and
Yeah.
more that we can remember or learn and unveil that love is the baseline,
Yeah.
the more freedom that we'll have to do those full circles of emotions, and just spend time with your kids, when you're with them. Just be with them, because they're teachers. They're so
They're super wise.
intelligent and they're so great. And I think, and honor yourself too, and love yourself, because they need you whole. Our children
Yeah.
need us whole. Our children need us to be in our fullness, and whatever that looks like for you. There can be a lot of shame that one feels if they're making choices that are what they need to do, that maybe people don't understand, but for whatever reason you need to do it, and doing those choices, because that will strengthen your bond with your child. And and if you don't listen to what you need to do, then it just pents up stuffs those voices that are trying to guide you and tell you what, suggest or guide you into where you're meant to be. Which your children, they chose you because you're you. You're not to be anything other than ourselves. And love is incredible. That bond between a child and a parent is unbreakable, and it's strengthened the more and more that child is child and parent is able to be them.
Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. Oh, it's been so good. So good, Jordi.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about all the time,
Oh my
but it's
gosh,
good.
yeah, I would love to have you on again in
Yeah.
the next few weeks, and maybe we can touch more on pregnancy. We didn't get to delve into that too much today.
Yes, we should talk about that, because I think there's
Oh,
some
it's
really
huge.
special things that I would love to share about my pregnancy with Peyton, and then like her birth after, and some ways that if you're pregnant right now, how you can deepen your connection during your pregnancy with your baby, and what's the little
That's
being growing
awesome.
inside of your womb. And yeah, I love talking about like pregnancy and conception and all of that. So it's like it's my favorite. Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, it's been so good. So, guys, if you've just been introduced to Jordi today through the live and meeting me, feel free to connect with her on Facebook. And do
Yeah.
you have what's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they're interested in taking some of your classes? You do circles, and maybe just take a couple minutes and talk to us about that and what you're offering right
Um,
now.
the best way to reach me is if you send me a Facebook message, or you can send me an email, which maybe I'll drop my email in the comments. Is the best way to reach me. You can follow along on my Facebook personal page, or Inner Awakenings. If you look up Inner Awakenings, it's a page that I have. On there, you'll see events. So there's various classrooms and journeys that sometimes happen, and ceremonies. So I do cacao ceremonies. In them, they've been sacred sexuality for some time, and really understanding the sacredness within our connection and within sexuality. And now they've evolved into sacred origins. So they're containers to heal
Ooh.
basically what we were talking about today, and healing the mother, healing the father, acknowledging the presence of those two energies within our beings and externally, acknowledging the potential that's wanting to come through, and acknowledging the children that are here. And so sacred origins, creating harmonious containers, they're deep transformations within the ceremonies.
Like
And
wild goosebumps.
yeah, so
Wild
there's
goosebumps all over my body.
there's about one ceremony a month. They're in Victoria for the main part right now, in BC. However, perhaps in Calgary, maybe we'll have one sometime soon if there's enough interest to bring one here. There's private work that you can do with me as a client or student. and then classrooms that I have. So we talk about conscious consumption, we talk about sacred truth, so breaking down the energy of sacred and truth, so love and the masculine and feminine. I work a lot in alchemy and understanding the transformation of density into a higher vibration. So bringing more love into your life, bringing more self-awareness into your life, and allowing your liberation to be found from within you. Essentially, you're the only one who can do that, but I just relay concepts and some philosophies and some story to help you find whatever it is that you need to find. And then the ceremony containers are the internal experience where you're being held in a journey and you're moving through emotions. We've had ceremonies where there are people laughing, people on the floor crying, people making animal sounds, and just on their yoga mats in their spaces, but deeply, deeply, deeply embodied in their human experience. And it is such a gift to see such rawness and to see such realness coming forward and being showing up and doing their work and just being embodied and feeling, because stuff is hard to feel sometimes. And when we can come together in community, when we can come together in connection, it helps make it easier in that we're not alone and we feel supported and we're all brothers and sisters, and it's important that we unite within that. And then if you're on the island, I'm out there quite often, so you'll see the events posted around. If you've been to any, thank you for coming to them, and thank you for the work that you're doing. To all of you, thank you for the work that you're doing. There's an event this coming weekend, a festival out in Souk called Chautauqua. So if you're out on the island, check it out. It's a really beautiful coming together with some really awesome humans, putting some stuff together, deepening in primitive skills and healing the land and coming together within our families. So yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. That's so good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I don't know what I'm gonna say next. I was gonna say something and I totally forgot. It's okay.
It's all good.
Yeah.
We will do this again. We'll do this
grateful.
again in a week or two. I'll be
Yeah,
out.
I would love to do that.
Yep.
I would love to do
I'm
that.
game
Yeah,
for that.
oh, that's what I was gonna say. So I'm doing lives with people more regularly now. I'm aiming to do every Tuesday at the 11:11 portal. And so if you've got a conscious business, if you are or you know somebody who's got a conscious business that's helping to raise the vibration, helping to bring more awareness, more love, more eco-friendly, whatever that might be, to the planet, please feel free to get them in contact with me. Filling up that schedule of who we're speaking with next, and I'd love to have you back on the show, Jordi, as part of that.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I do want to put a little call out to mothers as well. I am working on a project. I'm working on something, and so if there's any mothers out there who would love to talk and to share their story, share their experience with becoming a mother, with wanting to become a mother, with pregnancy, with the challenges of mothering within a partnership, single mothering, whatever that may be, the spiritual aspect as well of becoming a mother, and that journey. So any moms, if you're interested in talking, drop. Yes.
I was like, oh,
Elaine, you're on my list. I have a list.
You got a list of people to contact. Great.
I do.
I'm on the list.
But yeah, if you're a mom and if you're interested, just write your email down, and I'm working on some things. Yeah.
Great. Wonderful.
Sweet.
So good. Well, I hope everybody has a fantastic day. Jordi, will you close with 3 ohms with me?
Yes, I will.
Let's do it. And anybody who's still watching here live or on the replay, please join in with us. Just sitting up straight and moving into that space, just honoring that connection in that space. I love you. It's perfect. Exactly the way it is. You can put it facing at the ceiling. I don't know.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we do a breath and then a breath and exhale and then om?
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us today, for being part of this wonderful awakening that we're all going through together. Thank you for sharing. I hope you have the most beautiful day. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday for the next awakening portal. Love you. Thank you again so much for being here with me today, Jordi.
Thank you, Elena.
Eyeballs for all the peoples.
Nose kisses.
Nose kisses.
Oh my God. Okay, goodbye.
Bye,
Thank you guys. Bye.